He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands.
Welcome back to another episode of the Wrong Show. Welcome back to the Ministry of Truth. I am your host, Javi, obviously the only host on this channel. And before we get to some music, some shows, I want to showcase, not really showcase, I want to let you guys, page of the day. Make sure when I go post this stuff, you guys go follow his page. If you're on Rumble, I'm sorry, I forgot to add it in the description. But for right now, I'm going to showcase Casey Mo, because I feel bad about missing out yesterday. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you go follow Casey Mo's page, spelled just like it says, Casey, C-A-S-C-Y, Mo. He's got some good shit. He's like me, but a little more. Good morning, Canadian Tyler. He's a little more calm, so to speak, than I am. So, Casey Mo, there you go. I mean, not that you told me to do this. I did this all on my own. But, on to the next. So you guys know how I like music. We all know how I like music, and that's how we start off our day. So today we're going to start off with a British singer named Zuby, who's also very conservative and hates liberals. Not really hates liberals. Tommy boy! What's up? No Fauci. Actually, hey, Tommy boy. It's funny you should say that. One of the clips is on Fauci and the new vaccine. That's funny. Anyway, let's get with Zuby. Zuby, he played the trans thing in England and pretty much said, hey, I'm a trans woman. Now he has the deadlift record in UK. He did it to prove a point. But anyway, take it away, Zuby.
Zuby got deplatformed. He got kicked off of Twitter. This is crazy. Zuby is a musician. He's a rapper from the UK who's been on the podcast. I mean, the dude doesn't even swear. And someone said, I bet I sleep with more women than you do. To which he writes, okay, dude. And they decided by him saying, okay, dude. Okay. That is grounds for being banned from Twitter.
Okay. They did ban him from Twitter for that.
Oh, you don't like my style?
Okay, dude.
Oh, you don't like my lyrics?
Okay, dude.
Oh, you don't like my politics?
Okay, dude.
Do you even know what knowledge is?
Okay, dude.
Oh, now they want to mention me.
Okay, dude.
So now they want to censor me.
Okay, dude.
I got blood and dragon energy, and I control my legacy, and I got friends and enemies. I'm working hard to make a milli, baby. Flow is never wheezy. Couple 100,000 fans, and it all started with a CD. Used to hustle on the street, and now they see me on the TV, going viral like Corona, so they try to quarantine.
Oh shit! Did he say that?
Celebrities, but most of them are frauds. Tell you how I really feel, because my only fear is God. They be lying on the media and lying through the mob. Hate to simp on social media. They've never seen a broad. I be coming to America like Sammy and Akeem. I'm uniting black and white and brown like Martin Luther's dream. And I get around the internet like presidential memes. And I did it independently. I never had a team. You've come a long way. Please don't go commercial now. Careful with your words. Don't be controversial now. Winning nothing less. That's a victimhood mentality. Cause I am not oppressed, and that's a check to your reality. Oh, you don't like my style?
Okay, dude.
Oh, you don't like my lyrics?
Okay, dude.
Oh, you don't like my politics?
Okay, dude.
NB Rap and Tiffany, what's up?
Okay, dude.
Oh, now they want to mention me.
Okay, dude.
So now they want to censor me.
Okay, dude. dude.
Tiger blood and dragon energy, and I control my legacy, and I got friends and enemies. They say be open-minded, but they tell you how to live. That's how you ended up with drag queens reading to your kids. My soul cannot be bought, and what I'm speaking is the truth, and I won't silence every thought while they indoctrinate the youth. I think socialism sucks and every government is shady. I'm not down with open borders, I'm not cool with killing babies. There aren't infinite genders, and a man can't be a lady, and you know that it's the truth, so why you looking at me crazy? I'm tired of your isms, I'm bored of all your phobias. I am not a bigot just cause I don't smoke with smoking ya. Shame and calling names the only thing you can invoke, but we can talk about the system if you really think you're woke. Sell him murder, sell him dope, all the things that keep him broke.
If you got
But you label me a sellout if I try to give him hope. I don't care, my vision bigger, raise your kids, stop pulling triggers. You're a smart black man, so why you call yourself a... Oh, you don't like my style?
Okay, dude.
Oh, you don't like my lyrics?
Okay, dude.
Oh, you don't like my politics?
Okay, dude.
Do you even know what knowledge is?
Okay, dude.
Oh, now they want to mention me.
Okay, dude.
So now they want to censor me.
Okay, dude.
Tiger blood and dragon energy, and I control my legacy, and I got friends and enemies.
Okay, dude.
All right, Zuby, thank you for that awesome song. We will see more from Zuby later on in this episode. But before we get to that, obviously we know, if you haven't heard, New Mexico governor has put a 30-day ban on concealed and open carry guns in major cities like Albuquerque. Well, that's not working out for her. The sheriffs were like, fuck you, that's a violation of the constitutional rights. And yeah, and I can't remember who's suing him, but somebody's going to sue the governor because of this. And I don't blame him, because it's an unconstitutional law. You take away the guns from the good guys, we all know what happens. They're going to be like, the criminals will be like, oh, well, they can't protect themselves. What do they have? Mace and a pocket knife? Yeah, you always bring a mace and a pocket knife to a gunfight. But this one's actually more humor, so. Not democracy,
Police expansion for my unconstitutional new law.
Yeah.
Become a member at freedomtunes.com for exclusive cartoons.
Leftist everywhere. That's the humor part, but it's
back.
Now, I saw an interesting valuetainment from Patrick Bet David. I knew he was an immigrant, but I thought he was from a different Middle East country. I didn't know he's from Iran. But that doesn't really matter, because where he's at now, he's actually doing better for himself and advocating against terrorism and leftism and liberalism. But anyway, he's talking about NATO, and when I was looking at the map that he shows, and I've said this before, they're UN and NATO and the US, they're all in a big conglomerate to take Russia and China. And the map he'll show you, it's actually NATO and the United States occupying every country around that border. What's up, Envy Rap? Well, while you're typing that, I'm going to start the video.
Was a moment where Nikki Haley Vivek went after each other. It was heated. The entire place was on fire. I was in the audience. I was watching. Haley was defending Ukraine, saying, how dare we support a Putin? He's a thug. He's a killer. Didn't he just kill his opponent, Prigozhin? And we're watching this thing taking place. And we're sitting here, stay out of the way.
Okay. I actually agree with this. However, I think I mentioned this before. The leaders we have today are nothing like the leaders we had in the past. And I think I mentioned yesterday or the day before. And my examples are the military leadership, right? Oh. Well, yes, you're right. They're representative. Leadership runs a little bit different. Growing up in the military, you saw good leaders and bad leaders. And after post 9/11, well, they are. I have to call them leaders because that's their title. Because I was a leader. But they were getting promoted like super quick because of it was post 9/11, and they needed more and more people to go to war because, well, obviously that's what the military industrial complex wants. But at the same time, they were promoting a lot of shitty people, and I saw it around me, and I got in a lot of trouble because I always called them out. Other leaders hated me because in reality I was a better leader because I learned from the good parts of my leaders and the bad parts. But I grew up in a military family, so I kind of had that already in me. I just had to refine it. Fuck Abbott, man. Oh, okay, so he did prohibit it from. Good, good, good.
Let Russia take over Ukraine. What are we doing? We should defend our allies, NATO, since we're putting money into NATO. We should defend NATO. So that prompted me to say, let's investigate this. Brandon brought this up, and I said, how big is NATO? How much money are we spending in NATO? Who's scarier, NATO or BRICS? Are we more worried about members in NATO or members in BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, which party can throw Iran there as well? What is the pro and con of NATO? Why is it still around? The whole thing was prompted by Russia, but Russia fell in 91. Do we still continue putting money into it? Did anybody ever leave NATO? Did anybody come back to NATO? Who is not to join NATO? A bunch of different questions that we're going to get into today. If you get value out of this video, give it a thumbs up.
I'm not gonna lie, this dude's pretty fucking intelligent, and I like if he, well, he can't because he's an immigrant. But then again, we do have Ilhan Omar, who was a refugee from Somalia. Now she's in Congress. Why can't he run? Why can't I run? Oh, I can run, but I don't have the money.
Thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Let's get right into it. NATO. What does NATO stand for? The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, an intergovernmental military alliance between 31 member states that was established in 1949 after World War II because everybody feared Soviet Union. So NATO is a collective security system. Its independent member states agree to defend each other against attacks. During the Cold War, NATO operated as a check on the threat posed by the Soviet Union. So it's kind of like being part of a gang and everybody teams up with each other. If somebody messes with you, you messed up with me.
Hell
so
yeah.
If you want to know who's part of NATO as well as who joined first, here's a list. In 1949, the 12 countries that joined.
Glad you brought this up. So the difference between a democracy and a republic, and I've gone over this before YouTube banned my other two channels. So a democracy is you vote for your representatives, and your representatives, they vote the way they think they should, and that what the people want. In a republic, which is what we are, you vote for the people or your representative, and your representative does what you want. It wants their constituents actually want. And that when I go talk to senators and shit during elections that are outside these polling places, I love you. That's one thing I ask them. If I do not vote for you and you win, will you still take my opinion and actually listen to it? And of course, they gave the politician answer. Oh yeah. I'm like, nope, I'm not voting for you, motherfucker.
Belgium, Canada, Denmark, France, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, the United Kingdom, and United States. 1952, it's Greece and Turkey. In 59, it's Germany. In 66, France is the first one that leaves. They're like, listen, we're out of here. We don't want to deal with you guys. NATO, they were offended. They were upset. They're out. Later on in 2009, they rejoined. 1982, it's Spain. 1999, it's Czech Republic, formerly Czechoslovakia. Then it's Hungary, Poland. Then in 2004, it's Bulgaria, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania, Slovakia, and Slovenia.
Formerly, a lot of these former Soviet Union countries.
Yugoslavia. And then in 2009, it's Albania, Croatia. In 17, it's Montenegro. In 2020, it's North Macedonia. And in 2023, Finland, making it 31 members. So it's important when you see this, somebody says, so what, all these people are joining. That's totally fine. I want you to look at this map on statistics.
I'm glad he brought this up. So this is Russia. This is the old NATO, the darker blues. The farther you move, the lighter it gets, is the newer countries that join NATO. And this one right here, they want to be parts of NATO, But if you look at it, they're completely surrounding this one border of Russia, kind of like the Nazis tried to do. Look how well that worked out for them. And Ukraine, as much as they don't want to tell you, Ukraine was actually, they go back and forth between a democracy, not Republican, communism, Nazis. I mean, they still have Nazis. The SS battalion that they have as their special forces was taught by the CIA, and they are Nazis. I can't remember what they're called.
Statista, and look at the years from dark blue. If you look at the dark navy blue to lighter blue to lighter, and all of a sudden it's green and yellow. Notice how it starts. All the navy blue is far left, far from Russia, meaning Russia doesn't care with those countries at that time. But notice it gets lighter, which is getting close to Russia, and lighter, and then the yellow and the light blue and the more yellow. Now they're getting right next to Russia, and Russia's now sitting there saying, NATO, what plans do you have here? What are you trying to do? It's almost as if you're pushing me to have to do something and take action against Ukraine, Poland, and some of these other countries. You ever wonder why Jamie Dimon, CEO of Chase, has a $900 million art collection, or Steve Cohen, $1.1 billion art collection, or Microsoft has nearly $1 billion collection? The company, 5,000 art pieces in 180 different locations worldwide. Why? Because billionaires and millionaires understand one of the ways to hedge against inflation. Looking at these guys were former Russia. He's looking at saying, why are you doing this to me? What's your motive here? Again, this is really pissing Putin off. Now,
the Azov Brigade is their special secret unit trained by the CIA with very, very Nazi values.
Watch us and say, who cares, Pat? Do we want to make him happy? Do we want to make our enemy happy? This is not a guy we like. He just killed his opponent. Is our priority to make the guy happy? Some may say,
wait,
priority maybe
so he
not
killed
to
his
start
opponent,
World War
Russia
III.
bad. But we're literally imprisoning a president on political reasoning. So
that's why we started this, right?
We're
so
about the
imagine
same.
you're Putin, you're like, wait a minute, you're getting all this stuff that's getting stronger. How many ballistic missiles do you have that can be targeted in my country? I got to take care of my country, right? Look what this chart shows. NATO defense system. If you go all the way to the bottom right, you'll see the ballistic missiles. You'll notice Germany, Romania, Poland, Spain, and Turkey. U.S. has missiles in those countries, including NATO and Germany, that can
Romania,
directly
Poland,
target
and Turkey.
Russia. And this is what upsets Putin. So what? July 11, 2023, they're trying to expedite the process of getting Ukraine to membership, right? According to this article number 5, if Ukraine is part of NATO and Russia attacks them, not only can they, but they have to respond because it's in the treaty to defend NATO. The parties agree that an armed attack against one or more of them in Europe or North America shall be considered an attack against them all. Okay, all. And it continues at the end to say, such action as it deems necessary, including the use of armed force to restore and maintain the security of the North Atlantic area. This is in their articles. You attack one or more, we can attack you. And Russia, essentially, if they speed up the process of Ukraine and Russia attacks Ukraine, that means NATO can now attack Russia because it's part of the treaty. So before we tell you who spends the most money for, the budget for NATO, let's look at pros and cons, because maybe there's a lot of pros for NATO for us to have that, and then you can look at the cons as well. Pros. Deterrence. NATO's main goal is to deter aggression against its member states. By having a strong military alliance, NATO makes it clear to potential adversaries that any attack on a NATO member would be met with a strong response. Defense. NATO committed to defense necessary, including the use of armed force to restore and maintain the security of the North against one or more of them in Europe or North America shall be...
Okay, so if we drop out of NATO, who is really going to come try and attack the United States? We have National Guard, we have reserves, but we have people like me. And plenty of people like me that own plenty of guns. And we love this country and will attack all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Be considered an attack against them all. Okay, all. And it continues at the end to say, such action as it deems necessary, including the use of armed force to restore and maintain the security of the North Atlantic area. This is in their articles. You attack one or more, we can attack you. And Russia, essentially, if they speed up the process of Ukraine and Russia attacks Ukraine, that means NATO can now attack Russia because it's part of the treaty. So before we tell you who spends the most money for, the budget for NATO, let's look at pros and cons, because maybe there's a lot of pros for NATO for us to have that, and then you can look at the cons as well.
My bad, guys.
Pros. Deterrence. NATO's main goal is to deter aggression against its member states. By having a strong military alliance, NATO makes it clear to potential adversaries that any attack on a NATO member...
But when it comes to NATO and its interest, we are literally the first country that gets called, and we're like, oh, okay. Well, most definitely we'll do this because we need NATO in case Russia and China try to take over the world. So we need to make our new world order first.
Member would be met with a strong response. Defense. NATO committed to defending its member states if they are attacked. This has been demonstrated in practice, most notably during the 1999 bombing of Yugoslavia, when NATO intervened to stop the Serbian government's ethnic cleansing campaign in Kosovo. Stability. NATO has helped to promote stability in Europe since its founding in 1949 by providing a forum for cooperation and consultation. NATO has helped to prevent conflict between its member states. Values. NATO is based on the shared values of democracy, individual liberty, and the rule of law. These values are important to many people in Europe and North America, and NATO helps to uphold them. Now let's take a look at the cons. Cost. NATO is a costly alliance. The United States spends a significant amount of money on NATO, which some argue is not necessary. Next, unnecessary. Some argue that NATO is no longer necessary. In the post-Cold War era, they point out that there's no longer a clear threat from the Soviet Union or any other major power. Aggressive. Some argue that NATO is an aggressive alliance that is more interested in expanding its influence than it's deterring aggression. They point...
No way. They don't want to get... They're going to get bigger? Huh. And we're funding this.
To NATO's intervention
one of the biggest
in Yugoslavia and Libya as evidence of this. Ineffective. Some argue that NATO has been ineffective in preventing conflict in Europe. They point to wars in Bosnia, Herzegovina, Kosovo, and Ukraine as evidence of this. Now, in 2016, Trump pointed out something that really got a lot of people upset, but it got a lot of American people saying, why are we doing this? It doesn't make any sense. They pulled out the data of what percentage of NATO we put into. So
I don't think China's going to step in. Well, if part of that BRICS thing he was talking about involves South Africa, we might not even... Well, no, because Elon said he won't use it for war. So we'd be fucked regardless because we use satellites.
So if you look at 2022, you would notice United States all the way at the top. We put in not only the most money, but percentage-wise, we put the second highest percentage of our GDP at 3.47%. Then look at the drop off, how quickly the total dollar goes to UK. And then you have Germany, France, Italy, Canada, Poland, Netherlands. And by the way, if you look at all these countries, most of them are close to Russia, but we are not close to Russia. But why are we putting 3.5% into this? Well, the rule is only 2%. You don't have to put more than 2%. Well, we're going 3.47%. Some may say we're doing this. It allows us to have control. We have the loudest mic. When we say what to do, we're putting in the most money. How much is the money we're really putting into? Let me kind of break down what 3.47% is. So if you notice, U.S. $811 billion, then you have UK at $730, which means we're 11 times more than what UK puts in. Then it's Germany, $63 billion, France, $57, Italy, 33, Canada, 27, Poland, 15 billion, Netherlands, 15 billion, Spain, 15 billion. So, when you listen to the arguments, DeSantis, Vivek, or Nikki Haley, and, Romney, and who should I listen to? I don't know who I should listen to. One side says, why are we spending so much money? Why is this establishment so obsessed with military-industrial complex? Spend, make money for Raytheon, Boeing, General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman.
True.
You're making all money for these guys that eventually give to your party. That's
Very
what
true.
The argument is made from one side. The other side is sitting there saying, wait a minute, who do you worry about more, BRICS or NATO? Who's part of NATO? You're worried about Germany? You're worried about France? You're worried about UK? Let me kind of break down to who's part of BRICS. Are you worried about Brazil? Not really. Are you worried about India? No, we have a decent relationship with them. Are you worried about China? Yeah, we are worried about China. Are you worried about Russia? We are worried about Russia. Are you worried about South Africa? Who? South Africa? No, I'm not really worried about him. How about Iran? Well, Iran is kind of part of them because China invests into. How about Saudi Arabia? Well, they work with everybody. They're kind of in the middle, but they're not taking oil with one, so they're probably tied to China a little bit. But I am worried about China. I am worried about Russia. So what does BRICS look like compared to NATO? Here's what it looks like. Formation year, NATO 49, BRICS 2009. Type of organization, military security, BRICS, Economic, political, and cultural cooperation. NATO, 31 countries, BRICS, 5. Total population, NATO, 954 million. That's 13% of the world population. Look at BRICS,
Holy
3.21.
shit.
45% of the world population with only 5 countries compared to 31. GDP, 45% of world GDP. BRICS, 31.5%, so smaller. Big economies, US, Germany, France, UK, Poland. BRICS, China, India, Brazil.
And we get a lot of shit.
Do you
from
not want to
China.
piss off? Do you not want to piss off BRICS? So you may say, well, Pat, I mean, I'm not understanding where you're going with this. Are you saying we are for strengthening Ukraine? Are we now, what direction are we going with this? Here's all I'm saying to you. One can be paranoid about the fact that NATO wants us to send all the money because we have a big economy. Don't worry about it. You guys can afford it. You're rich. You're like the rich family and all your
We're
cousins.
not rich.
When you go out, they want you to pay for everything. They're annoying. What do you think about people like that want you to pay for everything because you're rich? That's how they look at America. But one may say, listen, China, Russia, those guys see themselves as an equal to you. You don't want to kind of forget about those guys. That's a real threat. That's not necessarily a best friend of ours, right? For us to sit there and be like, yeah, totally fine. I think we should stay paranoid with everybody and kind of watch our money because we're kind of going into a lot of debt right now. Fair argument. But the idea is to watch for everyone's way that they're hurting the country that matters to you and I the most. If you live in America, that's who matters to me the most. And that's what ought to matter to you also the most. So let's answer a few different questions here. Number one, is NATO preventing World War III from happening?
Hell
Some can make a
fucking
strong
no.
argument that NATO's encroachment on Russia is a leading cause of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Those in favor of NATO might argue that the NATO policy is an attack against one, is an attack against all, is an effective deterrent to Russia's aggression against surrounding countries. Somebody say, you know what? Russia's not going to want to attack one of these guys because we all have to attack Russia. So like, we're just not going to do anything. We're going to leave it alone. Maybe it's working, maybe it's not. But both arguments have a good point. The other question, what would World War III look like? If nuclear missiles were launched, 70% of the world would be killed pretty much instantly. So in a non-nuclear, U.S. is not really a threat for many different reasons. One of the reasons is we've got 2 big oceans between us and Russia and China. Let's take a look at this here together, ranking U.S. according to globalfirepower.com. It puts U.S. ranking number 1, and then Russia number 2, and China 3. If you look at U.S. versus Russia, here's a comparison. You'll see how they have it broken down. Manpower, they give it to Russia. Air power, us. Land power, naval power, natural resources, financials, it's Russia. Logistics, geography goes to us. But this doesn't tell the whole story. I'll give you here in a minute some other numbers here with, destroyers and aircraft carriers and helicarriers. We'll go into that here in a minute. Let's look at U.S. versus China. China being ranked number 3. Manpower, obviously, China. Air power, us. Land power, naval, China. Natural resources, us. Financials, them. Logistics, geography, us. But if you look at the top countries with destroyers, okay, you would see us at number 1 with 92, China at 50, Japan 36, Russia's at 15. Even if you combine China and Russia together, they're at 65. We're at 92.
I like this. This is a very good comment. World War III is China enslaving our kids on TikTok and parents too passive to fight it. I 100% agree with that statement. Donald Trump had it right when he's told TikTok, hey, if it's owned by Chinese, it's not allowed in the country. So they switched it to a location in California, but it's still run by China. They just changed the company name. The CEO in the U.S., Chinese.
After Russia, it's South Korea, India, France, UK, Mexico. And if we look at aircraft carriers, total in the world, there's an estimated 46. Of the 46, 20 are ours. France has got 4.
Whoa.
Japan's got 4. China's got only 3. Italy 2, UK 2, Australia 2, Egypt 2, South Korea 2, then India 1, Russia 1, Brazil 1, Spain.
If we have 20 aircraft carriers, way more than the entire world, why are you worried about China's 3 aircraft carriers? They have a better air power? Great. We have more aircrafts. But then again, with the budget cuts, who knows if these aircraft still work or if they won't break.
Spain 1, Thailand 1. Meaning, of the 46, U.S. almost has half of the entire fleet. So in a non-nuclear war, U.S. is fine. In a nuclear war, 70% of the world is gone. We don't have to worry about that part. But if
what Bill
we
Gates
can
want.
figure out a way to prevent a nuclear war from happening, it's probably a good
Wait a
idea,
sec.
don't you think? So in closing, final
So essentially, this could be the cataclysm. Because if it happens, it erases 70% of the world's population. So it's essentially a modern day Great Flood.
thoughts here. So between NATO, BRICS, all this stuff we're talking about, Pat, what do you think about these things here? Well, first of all, NATO, like, who in NATO hates us? Think about it. NATO, like, most of it is Europe, right? Who in NATO hates us?
All of it.
They may look at us and say, these guys are such capitalists. All they care about is money. You guys are not living your life. You are selfish people, Americans. They don't hate us. They don't like us, right?
But
If
they
you
want to
think
be
about it.
us.
Like when you go to Europe in some restaurants and they see you're from America, you're American. You work very hard. You have no life. You chase the money. We have family. We have tradition. We have fashion. Like they look at us in a different way. Now, when you think about BRICS, China, Russia, if you add Iran as part of China's deal, I know the I stands for India, not Iran. They don't like us. Some may even say they hate us. I lived in Iran 10 years. They do not like America. They hate America. So imagine you got a billionaire who's your enemy, but he doesn't really care for you much, okay? But you have somebody that works a regular job, but they hate you. They're envious of you. Who has more power? This one's got more resources than this one. But what does this one have? This one's a true believer that's patient and is going to be patiently waiting till they get their opportunity to seek vengeance against those they envy and those they hate. They feel that way towards us. Of course, we have to make sure to tame them and keep them calm and at least some kind of a relationship there and figure out a way to do business together. But they're not sitting around saying, let America get as big as they want. No. FDR said something once, years ago. Roosevelt, he said the following. He said, in politics, nothing happens by accident. If it happens, you can bet it was planned that way. Nothing happens by accident. So COVID wasn't an accident. The whole world shut down for about a year and a half, 2 years.
The voting,
intentional.
presidential elections.
Isn't that the Democrats' favorite president of all time? It's kind of a weird thing to say, right? So maybe some of these things are planned. So China, Russia may not have access to the destroyers or the ships or the aircraft carriers that we have, but they are training on bio warfare and cyber warfare. That's not on a leader's bulletin.
That we gave them money
we don't
for.
have a way of
That's why
measuring that.
they want Ukraine.
So my whole purpose of saying this to you is
they don't want.
I think it's best we as Americans stay paranoid.
What's up, DJ Fruit
with
Loop?
anybody whose number one priority in their lives is not America. And we keep America as number one priority over Ukraine, over relationship with Russia or China or any of that. Let's lead with America first, and then comes everybody else, instead of trying to solve everyone's problems and create unnecessary enemies, especially waking some of them up that we're cornering them to make a point, or else we're publicly humiliating them. It's that kind of situations that could lead to a nuclear war. Nobody wants that. We'd like to figure out a way to avoid that. If you got value out of this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe.
Nobody wants nuclear war, true. But unfortunately, it seems like our country does. Because why would we be funding, hey Jay, NATO? 32% of NATO comes from us. So we basically are the arbiters of war. Out of our entire country, I think we've had, 25 years that weren't war? Maybe less than that. Probably a lot less than that. So you're trying to tell me that we are not trying to push our influence on everyone else? We know that's bullshit, because we tried to push our influence on Uganda because they made homosexuality illegal, which is funny because they arrested 2 men and they're going to jail for, I think, for life, which is kind of fucked up. But at the same time, I mean, we can't really enforce our ideologies on another country because that's wrong. And we all know that. But what we are doing in this country is we are allowing our kids to be sexualized with both school teachers, TikTok, mainstream media, and, everything. To include a senator who has an OnlyFans and was pretty much, I heard she's great at giving head. I haven't seen it, there's always a chance. But like I said, back with these school books burning. Whoops, we're not Nazis. Senator Kennedy, not RFK, because he's not a senator, I don't think. He's going to read an excerpt from one of these books, and it's going to be a little interesting. Passive weak parents, 100%.
Confess I'm a little confused, and I appreciate the argument or discussion that we've been having, but for me, it's a little too conceptual, or I don't know, metaphysical or theological or whatever you want to call it. I want to try to understand what you're asking us to do. Let's take two books that have been much discussed. The first one is called All Boys Aren't Blue, and I will quote from it. I put some lube on and got him on his knees, and I began to slide into him from behind. I pulled out of him and kissed him while he masturbated. He asked me to turn over while he slipped a condom on himself. This was my ass, and I was struggling to imagine someone inside me. He got on top and slowly inserted himself into me. It was the worst pain I think I have ever felt in my life. Eventually, I felt a mix of pleasure with the pain. Close quote. All Boys Aren't Blue. The second is another much discussed book. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's called Genderqueer. Okay.
Telly, what's up, my brother?
Read an excerpt from that. Quote,
That's why I think we should homeschool our kids. I wouldn't say religion. You guys already know my thoughts on religion. Should it be in schools? No. Should sexuality be taught in schools? No. What need to go back to teaching is basic reading, writing, arithmetic. Because motherfuckers are graduating and they can't read. That doesn't make sense. In high school, I learned to file taxes, and this was paper taxes, not the fucking H&R Block. I learned to cook. I learned to plan for a financial wedding. All kinds of shit. We had home economics. We had, hell, what else did I do that they don't do anymore? History. I mean, yeah. And I believe homeschooling is the way to go, but at the same time, I let them go to public schools because of the interactions with other people. But I teach my kids more than the schools will, and I'm so glad my kids are based because they don't believe in the fucking bullshit that the schools try to push.
Got a new strap-on harness today. I can't wait to put it on you. It will fit my favorite dildo perfectly. You're going to look so hot. I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth. I'm going to give you the blowjob of your life. Then I want you inside of me. End quote. Now, Mr. Secretary, what are you asking us to do? Are you suggesting that only librarians should decide whether the two books that I just referenced should be available to kids? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay. Tell me what you're saying.
Well, first of all, there's this.
Don't give me a speech. Tell me what you're asking me.
Oh, yeah.
With all due respect, Senator, and the words you spoke are disturbing, especially coming out of your mouth is very disturbing. But what I would also tell you that we're not advocating for kids to read porn, to Senator Booker's point.
What are you advocating for?
We are advocating for parents, random parents, not to have the ability, under the guise of keeping kids safe, to try and challenge the world view of every single manner on these issues.
You're getting conceptual game.
I'm not getting conceptual.
Well,
I'm saying that
you are. Yes, you are. Because I want to know what you're recommending. It sounds to me like what some of you are saying, the librarians should decide who gets to see that book.
I'm saying when
Before you get into that question, so the way I see it, no, the librarian should not be able to decide what books should be in the library, what not should be in the library. It should be a conglomerate of, I would say, every school educator. Say this is the district. Every school, not educator, administrator, 2 parents from each district, and some other disinterested third party. They can decide what books go in school. I mean, it'll take away what the government wants and put it in the hands of the people, which can be good and can be bad. It all depends on what the teachers want, the parents want, and ultimately it comes down to what the parents want. The way I tell my kids, until you turn 18 or you graduate high school, because I have an 18-year-old that's in high school, you pretty much follow my rules. And it works. I don't know if that actually coincided with the original argument, but
thing when individual parents are allowed to make a decision of where that line is, and To Kill a Mockingbird, which involves a rape scene, should that book be pulled from our libraries?
Color
I think
Purple.
it becomes a slippery
Well,
slope.
I think you ought to think about it a little bit more before you come here.
I've thought about
If you're going to propose something, you ought to be able, in 30 seconds, to be able to explain what
Senator-
you're asking us to do.
Senator-
Ms. Kelly, what do you understand? Well, let me skip you for a second. Mr.
yeah, if you go look on Grassroots Army, DJ Fruit Loop, you'll see a lot of those, because that's pretty much what Grassroots Army does. And they will read the books, and you'll have a pastor reading the books at a school board meeting, and they try to shut them down.
Cameron, tell me what you're proposing.
It's pronounced mix.
Mix? Is that how would you like me to refer to you?
Senator, your definition of sexual is synonymous with LGBTQ identity.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you to tell me you read those 2 excerpts. Do you think that, are you asking that only librarians and not parents have any say in whether minors can read those books? Is that what you're saying?
Genderqueer has never been in my school library, so it's never been banned.
Well, suppose it was. Should it be up
It's actually in
just
some
to the
schools,
librarian, or should parents have a say?
especially in Cali.
There should be facilitation of collaboration between
Should
students.
parents have
and
a say?
educators. Parents should be working with students and educators to be
Okay.
making decisions, because
All
students
right.
are.
And who decides ultimately? The librarian, or do you take a vote, or who takes the vote?
Book review committees in the community in my school district.
You want a committee to decide?
There are
I just said-
committees.
Okay. Well, I'm asking you, how do we decide whether the 2 books that I just referenced should be available in the library? What would you, if you were running things, what would you do?
I just told you.
All Boys Aren't Blue, the scene you mentioned, is about sexual abuse.
I know what it's about.
It's not
What would
erotic.
you do
Well, why
in
the fuck
terms
is
of
it
making
sold?
the books available? Would you say anybody can see them, or they have to be in a special session?
Students who do not read books like All Boys Aren't Blue cannot learn what is
I
appropriate.
understand that.
They cannot learn.
I understand, but none
about
of you want to
abuse.
answer my question. You come here and you say censorship is bad, and of course it's bad.
And I tried telling my kids the same thing. Every year when I was active duty, they used to have to fill out a form saying, my parents are active duty, this and blah, 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 blah. Because they got more money for, having an active duty military dependent. And now as a retiree, they still send those papers to me, and I don't fill them out. I don't want them getting fucking money for something that obviously the schools don't want to teach them. But at the same time, the state's going to give them money anyway, but I'm not going to give them any federally funding off of my back, my hard-earned money, or my hard-earned time.
But the obvious response is, okay, you heard the books we're talking about. Okay, we're not talking about Catcher in the Rye. So tell me what you want, who gets to decide. And all I've heard is the librarians. And parents have nothing to do with it. And if that's your response, what planet did you just parachute in from?
Oh,
Parents,
hell yeah.
Senator,
Or what country, more appropriately? This is not China.
Parents, Senator, for all due respect, parents absolutely have a say. My parents were immigrants, came to this country. We never checked out books without our parents seeing what books we were reading. They encouraged us to read
Mr.
books.
Secretary, I understand
Because
this.
when I was a kid, and this is 20, when I was in school, this is 20, fuck, in the 90s and the 80s. I checked out books all the time. Granted, they weren't sexual. They were more like Garfield and shit like that. But my parents never knew what fucking books I checked out at the school library. Hell, my kids can check out the schools at the school library, and I won't even know. So whatever this piece of shit is saying, he needs to fucking stop drinking the fucking Kool-Aid. Or actually, drink the Kool-Aid. Go to Johannesburg and drink the Kool-Aid. Please. Please do.
And this is good for your politics back home.
It's got nothing to do with my politics. My bill is
Of course
passed.
it does.
My bill is
It has
passed.
everything to do with your politics.
I'm here to.
But you came here with a problem, and I'm trying to understand the solution, and you don't have one.
We solved the solution.
Other than to tell us that we don't agree with you, you're on the wrong. We'll be on the wrong side of history.
We solved the problem in Illinois. We fixed it because we.
Well, there are others you could work on.
Well, that's why
I'm
I'm
out
here
of
to help.
time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
To help other states make these decisions.
I would have played the whole thing, but that shit's like a few hours long. And what the fuck are you talking about? Which guy? Hopefully you're not talking about Kennedy. But when I listen to the other guy's voice, I don't hear it because like I said, I don't go back and watch videos. So whatever I hear is in my ear. So is Tommy Boy still here? Tommy Boy, if you're still here, this is for you. Specifically picked for you. No, I didn't pick this for you. It's a topic that everyone should know about because they're trying to bring it back and they're like, oh my God, it's going to be the worst thing. It's going to be a tsunami.
Viewers of Rising, we know you will be relieved to hear the Food and Drug Administration greenlit the updated COVID-19 boosters mandate for people 6 months and older in an effort to provide fuller protection against the new variant.
6 months and older. What the fuck? They're getting kids straight out of the womb.
XBB 1.5 ahead of a possible winter uptick in cases. Third-party advisors to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention are set to make recommendations today about who should get the new shots manufactured by pharmaceutical giants Pfizer and Moderna. The non-mRNA option has not been approved as of yet.
Meanwhile, the Gray Zone's Max Blumenthal shed light on Moderna's profit boost, no pun intended, from its COVID vaccine. He wrote, Moderna went from brink of failure to big pharma titan thanks to the mandates and propaganda blitzkrieg that prompted untold millions to take its junk vaccine. So now it's able to sponsor Shot of the Day for the rare athlete who refused to take the shot. He was referring, of course, to a image of men's U.S. Open sponsored of the men's Open, which was sponsored by Moderna, in which Novak Djokovic, who famously refused to get vaccinated, he had won. Did not get the vaccine, and there was that. It was a Moderna's Shot of the Day. It was sponsored by Moderna. The clip. It was very, very amusing. Meanwhile, of course, retired Dr.
You know, when you think about, we knew that we had free speech, but we were kids, and we really didn't know how to use our voice. I've always been anti-establishment since as long as I can remember. What's up, Bullhand? And my parents will tell you the same thing. And I don't know, man. I feel like even though we're like the hardest working generation, so to speak, and you know, we raised this new generation, which it's true, we did. And it's partially our fault because we let social constructs guide people, because we have these transgender grifters, these parents. We have these 30-year-old guys who can't get pussy unless they pay for it, which they probably can't afford. So they become a transgender woman, so they can go to the gym and see tits and ass. And it's okay, right? Especially in California. So
Dr. Fauci still making the cable news rounds to tout the safety of the vaccines. Let's watch.
The feeling is that I believe certainly those who are vulnerable, the elderly and those with underlying condition. But I believe we should give the choice to people who are not in the high-risk groups to have the vaccine available for them, because, again, we have experience with this type of vaccine in billions of people. It's a safe vaccine. Of course, with the mRNA, there's a very, very, very low risk.
So have you guys fixed the heart problems that are still affecting young people today? As early, well, I can tell you on August 24th, a guy who had COVID got better, had the vaccine, and he had a heart attack and died. And that would be Bray Wyatt. So that's one part the media wouldn't tell you, but the actual reports will tell you that.
Particularly in young men, of getting a myocarditis.
There it is.
But if you look at the risk of myocarditis from COVID itself is greater than the risk of the vaccine.
Okay.
And so.
But see, I don't understand that talking point, because sure, the risk of, even for the most at-risk group, it's true that the risk of COVID inducing myocarditis is more than the vaccine, even for the group that's most at risk from the vaccine. But you can
DJ Fruit Loop, that's an honorable thing, because like I said, the schools, they don't teach it at all. They say hate speech is not free speech, even though it is. Owning guns are bad. Look at David Hogg. It's okay to be sexualized in school. It's okay to be a male transition to a female and you become the best swimmer in the entire nation. Yeah, those kind of things.
Can get the vaccine and still get the vaccine. It does not prevent.
But see, when they're in school, they 100% think they can get away with it because they are in a position of power.
You from getting COVID. We will tout its benefits in reducing severe disease and the risk of death among the very vulnerable, especially including the immunocompromised and the elderly. But it's not really the way Fauci and others posit there. It's like a one or the other. But it's not a one or the other, because you can get them both.
Yep.
If you get COVID, not only do you have the risk of myocarditis, you have the risk of being hospitalized or dying.
Right.
If you get the vaccine, you have.
Honestly, I don't know if the SATs still, the SATs are trying. I know the ACTs are still around because my daughter took it. Actually, both my daughters took it, and they scored very high. Just saying. But I know the ACTs are around.
You have just the risk of myocarditis. That's the cost-benefit analysis he's trying to point out. So if either way you're going to get myocarditis, you're likely to get myocarditis, or there's the same possibility or slightly more of a possibility of getting myocarditis from getting vaccinated.
The myocarditis risk from COVID is just out there.
Make sure you pay attention to what they're teaching your kids in school. I mean, don't like pry into it, but talk to the kids when they get home. That's what I do. Like when they talk about the nuclear family, I'm 100% believer in it, because every night my kids, my wife, all had dinner at the same time, like we did as a kid. And we talk to our kids, and we learn what's going on in their life. Like my kids, they come to me with everything because they know I have the experiences and I don't judge them. And every piece of advice I've ever given my kids has been 100% successful. Okay. Well, that's DJ Fruit Loop. With special needs, I think they for sure what's the word I'm looking for? Because they're more impressionable, so they're going to try to easily push them through and to indoctrinate them
out there to be encountered, whereas
right,
you don't have control over
as is the risk of dying or being hospitalized from COVID. So if you are wanting to protect yourself against the possibility of being hospitalized from contracting COVID, but you're worried about myocarditis, basically it's a toss-up for you, and you can go ahead and get the vaccine, and you'll get the protection from hospitalization.
We can move on from this, but let me just say what I'm saying one more time. You will face it's a choice to face the very low, admittedly, low risk of myocarditis from the vaccine is something you
Not a low
choose.
risk.
But you can. So if you don't get vaccinated, you don't face the risk of myocarditis from the vaccine. You will face the risk of myocarditis if and when you get COVID. If you get vaccinated, you're facing the risk of myocarditis from the vaccine, which is low, but you're facing it, plus the risk of getting myocarditis from COVID because the vaccine isn't going to stop you from getting COVID.
Right, but you don't have the risk of being hospitalized.
But they shouldn't bring up well, there's also a risk of myocarditis.
Not gonna lie, I wouldn't kick her out of bed
That's
at
not
all.
an argument for the vaccine.
No, it's an argument against people who think that they're going to be able to avoid myocarditis one way or the other.
I don't think that's what Fauci's trying to argue.
It seemed like it to me. It seemed like he
That's
said
exactly what he
you've been
said.
saying for the last year or so about how people who are in lower risk categories can make their own cost benefit. The vaccine should be made available to them if they want to go ahead and take it. But if they're in a low risk category, they don't necessarily need to take it given the risk of myocarditis. It sounded to me like he said exactly what people have been wanting him to say this whole time. And I understand if people are frustrated that it's too little too late. But is there any acknowledgement that he seems to be reflecting what the science has borne out over the years and why it was that you were and so many others were opposed to mandates? He seems to be, he gave statements. I don't know if I can't remember now if we included him in this clip, but I think in the same interview said that he thinks that mandates are gone and that it's good and that they're not going to come back again because of these reasons, that the vaccine is not a sterilizing vaccine, that people can make their own cost benefit analysis, especially for people in low risk groups that are unlikely to be hospitalized in the first place.
It's funny.
Isn't that what
when they actually had to release all these side effects for the vaccine, I don't know if they were being like fucking trolls or just pieces of shit but if you looked at the what might be caused by COVID vaccine, it had shit like diabetes, AIDS, cancer. So I was like, wait the fucking minute. How are you going to get AIDS from a vaccine? Unless you guys are reusing needles. Or you developed it from a COVID patient who had AIDS. Well, yeah.
Everybody wanted out of him?
Yeah, that's all good. Again, I'm just saying, it sounded to me like he was saying because the risk of, we don't need to, obsess over this, but because the risk of myocarditis of the vaccine is lower, that's a reason to get the vaccine when it's not an either or, because the vaccine doesn't stop you from getting COVID, even if it has these other benefits. I thought that's what
I honestly believe,
Maybe I'm
just like,
So what about all the other things?
Full hand, kind of 50-50. I believe having the actual virus and going through it, even though it sucks, is way better than the vaccine as far as building up immunity. That's all the vaccine is doing is put more spike proteins in your body, which is how the COVID was made.
He said,
That's
what
great.
did you
That's
think
good,
about his
and
comments?
I'm glad to hear that from him. Look, and I'm glad the FDA approved this. I absolutely support the FDA and the CDC making it easier for you to choose to decide whether you want to get the vaccine, to tell you what it thinks the benefits are, and then to leave it up to you. I don't want the FDA to gatekeep whether people have access to this. Now, I was looking at so it's targeted at this XBB.1.5 variant, which actually is not the dominant strain anymore. Obviously, it was at the they're trying to. It takes
the vaccine's
so
from the
many
old one.
months to get it ready and approved. They think the strain that is dominant right now is related enough that it will have some protective effect. Obviously, we don't know that for sure, but they have some reason.
You know what? These yearly flu vaccine. Guess what flu vaccine? If you get it this year, they're actually vaccinating you for last year's flu strain. COVID-19 strain. No, they're different. So make sure you get your all three vaccines. You got to get your booster. You got to get RSV, and you got to get the flu shot. You guys need to remain healthy and take care of your fellow people to your left and right with their masks on.
Some reason to think that, so we'll see. Look, again, I think it's up to people, and it always should have been up to people, but especially now we're moving in.
That's kind of iffy thing. Because in the military, you pretty much there's certain rights that you give up. Like I had to take vaccines. It was either take vaccines or lose rank or lose money. But at that time, I was like, fuck, I'm a supercharged. If I don't get these vaccines, I can't fucking deploy. So guess what I'm doing? I'm taking these fucking vaccines. And now that I think back about it, I don't know if it made me better, worse, or whatnot, but I will never get another vaccine unless it's a tetanus one because I'll need it for stepping on a rusty nail or some crazy shit, getting stabbed, getting shot. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I know it came. I don't know if it made it illegal. It made it unconstitutional, and the people that were kicked out aren't. They are allowed back in. A lot of them don't want to come back in because the military fucked them over anyway. And I did get the peanut butter shot. The cool thing is, my parents actually gave me a heads up. So when they handed that frozen fucking thing, I put it in my hand under my armpit and shit to where it was super warm, and it wasn't as frozen as the other people's were. So it hurt a lot less, but it still hurt like a motherfucker.
Into the, get it if you think that's best given your health profile or when you've had COVID last. Look, I believe in full disclosure. I probably will get it when it's available. I'm not very concerned about the risks of the vaccine given my age and health profile. I'm not really concerned about the risk of COVID either, but I'm susceptible to respiratory illnesses. So I would rather, even if it doesn't end up helping me at all, so be it. I'm not really worried about the downside. So that's my calculation. If yours is different,
it all depends, Zero. If I was one of the people, I probably would go back. Well, actually, not now because there's no wars, but that's besides the point. If there's a war, absolutely, I would go back. But I'm retired, so I didn't get kicked out. And the people that I know get kicked out, they do not want to go back. I had a buddy who was a sheriff's department deputy in Seattle, Washington, and they were forcing him to get the vaccine. And he said, fuck it. That's what he quit. And now he's working for a sheriff's department in North Carolina, and they don't care about the fucking vaccine.
that's totally fine with you, and it should just be left to people.
Yeah, I do wonder in the void that kind of mandates and a more affirmative COVID policy has left behind, if people are going to find themselves clamoring for more protection in terms of interventions that will help protect themselves, start clamoring for the government to intervene and impose and provide the air quality standards that were supposed to be provided with the government allotments as part of the COVID programs in schools and the like.
So I'm not part of the active ready reserves, so to speak. I still can get called up because I'm still an active member of the military, just not active duty. I'm on retired status. I still have a UIC, which is Unit Identification Code, that they put all retirees under. But because I've been retired so long, they're going to get somebody who's freshly out of the military. Because, well, that's just how it works. Now, when it comes to reserves, the IRR, that is all the people that still have a service on their contract. So every military contract is 8 years total. No, whether it's active duty, reserves, National Guard, everything is 8 years. So if you get a 4-year active duty contract, you have to do 4 years on the inactive ready reserves. That doesn't mean you have to show up for drills and all that stuff. It just means you need to be ready in case of a war, which in my mind is why we don't need the draft, because we have the inactive ready reserves and everybody that signs that contract knows it's an 8-year commitment. So it's not a fucking surprise.
Like if they're going to be clamoring for tests and masks and things once it's clear that the government has stepped all the way away from this. I wonder
Damn,
if we're
DJ Fruit Loops, you should have went to the Army. They could have wavered you in.
Place where there seemed to be some criticism from some people we quoted in the segment of the government funding the manufacture of these vaccines in the first place, which my critique of the
some people that will go back are probably people that figured out that the economy is not like they thought it was, because in the military you get guaranteed pay. It's a set salary. Get out and it's harder to find a job because the only thing like some of these people knew was the military, and maybe they were something like a truck driver and they had no real relatable skills on the outside. So that would be a reason for them to go back into the military.
Pharmaceutical industry is a little bit different than that, but do we want to end up in a place where they don't actually manufacture enough vaccines to be on standby in case we do have another surge and a real pandemic issue, and we end up in the place we were with monkeypox, where there had been a decision not to keep the vaccines on store when they expired, not to re-up them because it cost a couple $1 million. And as a consequence, there was this real risk that this new disease was going to be able to spread in a way that was completely preventable. Or like we saw with some of the manufacturing issues with baby food, the supply chain issues that we saw all over the place with respect to COVID.
Formula.
Have we learned the lesson that it's good to have stores of some of this stuff just in case? Or is the attitude that this is a government enriching a private industry going to be so strong that people are arguing against even doing additional research or trying to
Big Pharma really not just another branch of the military industrial complex? I mean, we're military's test dummies. And when COVID came out, we were not me, but there's units very influential in promoting and giving out these vaccines.
Keep provisions on hand in case things get worse. I'm curious to see how this is going to play out and if anything pivots as the government takes a smaller and smaller role in protecting people.
Wait a second. You got arrested in Atlanta for that? That's some bullshit.
Against COVID.
We shall see. That does it for us for today. Tomorrow on Rising, California Representative Ro Khanna will be back here with us. We'll also, of course...
Well, that was that. We're going to move topics now to street interviews, because you guys know how I like street interviews. And this one's from James Klug, Billboard Chris, and a homosexual. I don't know the homosexual's name, but he really is. That's why I'm not just saying. I fucking hate Atlanta cops, man. Oh, that's good. So you got VA benefits, right, Bullhand? Oh, hopefully they think your meniscus got torn while you were still active duty. Beverly Hills Ninja. I actually liked that movie. I don't know what you guys are talking about. So, before we get into the topic of transgender street interviews, I'm going to play another video from Zuby. It's kind of like an intermission because I got to take a piss anyway. And I'm pretty sure some of y'all have to take a piss or get something to drink, get something to eat. But I will be right back, and I will leave you with this until... Joy.
Lord knows that I'm blessed, and I make moves, Lord knows I confess. Lord knows that I'm blessed, and I make moves, Lord knows I confess. What a mess. Look. Lord knows that I'm blessed, and I make moves, Lord knows I confess. Devil hates me, so the devil breaks free, but he can't make moves with a hole in his chest. Man, what a mess. Gotta slay demons, souls are possessed. Gotta slay demons, souls never less. Like Dante, Nero, roll with the best. This is no lie, this is no test. This is no try, this is no stress. Evil gon' die, give him no rest. Devil may cry, give him on death. Lord knows that I'm blessed, and I make moves, Lord knows I confess. Lord knows that I'm blessed, Lord knows that I'm blessed, Lord knows that I'm blessed. Lord knows that I'm blessed, and I make moves, Lord knows I confess. Devil can't hide, no, the devil can't rest, cause I'm working outside with a tool in a vest. Where I stay evil goes in a dress, and when I lay evil grows to oppress. And when I pray demons troll to repress, so I gotta slay demons, souls to progress. Better make thoughts, so I roll with the upper hand. Concentrate shots, cause my foes know what a man. Black tea, black, snap back like a rubber band. Fiends get slayed with a blade, swinging on every illiberating, screaming out, get up off of me, Satan, cause he can't get on top without hating. But I'm gonna get the drop without waiting. Praying all night with the mind of a sinner, slaying all night with the mind of a killer. killer. Fast all day and I feast for the dinner, and I blast always head east for the winter. Like, yeah, what you wanna try, fam? Take my soul, you must wanna die, fam. Carrying the sword, cause I'm carrying a lord, and I'm carrying a stick, but I'm not a blind man. Hell is not in my plan. Down to make a trip if they come from my clan. Walk through the valley of the shadow of death, slaying demons in the alley of the shallow of breath. Leave them dead on arrival. Spill the blood of my rivals. One hand on the rifle.
Timeout. Yeah, Tommy boy, when's that shit coming out? That shit was funny.
The other hand on the Bible. Lord knows that I'm blessed, and I make moves. Lord knows I confess. Devil hates me.
That's
so
right.
free,
Under 180 days. I forgot about that.
Man, what a mess. Gotta slay demons, souls are possessed. Gotta slay demons, souls never less. Like Dante, Nero, roll with the best. This is no lie, this is no test. This is no try, this is no stress. Evil gon' die, give him no rest. Devil may cry, give him more death. Lord knows that I'm blessed, and I make moves. Lord knows I confess. Lord knows that I'm blessed. Lord knows that I'm blessed. Lord knows that I'm blessed. Nobody iller, minimal hype, there's nobody realer. Critical strike on so many pillars, hit demons on sight like a stone cold killer. When it moves evil, turns to the press, and when it brews evil, turns to the west, and when it rules people, turns to the best, and when I shoot evil, turns to a mess. This is no SWAT, I'ma roll with another plan. I'm no cop, bring a hawk like the son of Sam. Never get caught, cause I walk with the son of man. If it gets hot, then I go to the motherland. Hero when it gets manic, get all these demons off of my screen. We all know Hollywood is satanic, but there's no wickedness on my team. Putting in work and I'm loving it too. I already did Merc, make another hit too. No, I don't work for the.
So tell me, boy, you mean in like 3 or 4 hours?
The government, dude, you should know I got bars for the government too. They be lying, people spying, weapon buying, drug supplying, rockets flying, children dying, mothers crying.
Actually, I've never heard of him, but I'm gonna look into it because I was a good cadence caller, but I got kind of told not to do them anymore because the army was changing, and my cadences were a little too unpolitically or not politically correct.
Ill denier. Lies that are better hit TV puts me to sleep like a sedative. They so repetitive, are they gonna beat or defeat me negative? No, Zuby's too blessed, and I trust God, say it with my whole chest. Never heard a man if he's bringing no threat, but Satan takes stand, you get rid of no stress. Lord knows that I'm blessed, and I make moves, Lord knows I confess. Devil hates me, so the devil breaks free, but he can't make moves with a hole in his chest. Man, what a mess. Gotta slay demons, souls are possessed. Gotta slay demons, souls never less. Like
all right, so you're gonna keep singing up a little bit, same chorus. But like I promised, I've got 2 videos. Okay, that works. So 9. Yeah. So what was I gonna say? So you guys know Billboard Chris. Some of you should know, may or may not know James Klug because I have featured him before. But they're walking in Philadelphia, and obviously Billboard Chris has his sign, and people come up to him, and there's 2 clips. One's about 5 minutes long, and the other one's about 30-something minutes long. So some of you might lose. Fuck the Knights Templars. Fuck. Anyway, let's get to the first video. I don't know if I agree with her, but it looks like if she got some good, some real dick, that it might change her mind. But you never know. Let's hear her thoughts on puberty blockers and transgender children.
To consent to things that their child should have? Or do you think the government should stand in the way between a doctor and parents?
So I'm all about parental rights, but there's one right they don't have, and that's the right to abuse their children.
So I don't believe that hormone blockers are abusive of children. Putting them through something they don't consent to, something that causes suicidality later in life, is probably something that is more abusive.
So if kids can't be consent to being born, obviously, and now they can take away consent to hit puberty. Okay, this is not something that you get to pick and choose. It's gonna happen.
Then, for example, I don't know, if we're going to talk about maybe like the mutilation of penises through, for example, circumcision.
Well, I don't think we should do circumcision either, but that's totally separate subject.
That's good.
So I'm not here to engage in whataboutisms. You went to the first argument I hear every single time I have these conversations, and I've been doing this out on the street for 3 years. And you said that kids are going to kill themselves. You talked about suicidality. Mm-hmm. You think kids are going to kill themselves if they go through puberty?
Yes. I think a lot of trans people, the percentages are in my favor. I think.
You got some data to back this up to you?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but I can
point
say
me in the general direction of any studies or anything?
Wait a second, you got a draft letter? That's pretty fucking awesome. That's something to keep for sure.
I mean, honestly, I don't have them bookmarked in my mind, but I can tell you that in my
No one
personal
ever does.
experience-
Sorry.
I'm sure there are people you talk to that have.
Well, I've done all the research on this.
Have you?
Yes. There have been no studies, no qualitative studies, no quality studies into children. All the studies that have been done about suicides and people who call
Been all
themselves
adults.
transgender have been done with the adult population. And
okay.
a lot of these studies suck, to be honest with you, because they're just hold
sorry.
on, let me just finish this one point. A lot of these studies are self-reported. They're not doing follow-up with everyone who gets these procedures done. But the most comprehensive study we do have where no one was lost to follow up was done in Sweden.
Oh, cool. They caught that
And
murder
showed with the
escaped
adult
convict
population,
in
10 years
Pennsylvania.
after the fact, 10 years after sex reassignment surgery, suicides were 19.1 times higher than their peers after accounting for similar mental health comorbidities. If you eliminate that, it's about 40 times
Wait
higher
a second.
than the general population.
So this murderer that escaped from the jail or prison in Pennsylvania is an illegal alien? Huh.
So there is no evidence that this is reducing suicides. All the evidence we do have, and there isn't enough quality evidence with children, but all evidence we do have points to the exact opposite, that suicides are increasing.
Do you want
But
me
it's
to
a
look
very
it up?
coercive, manipulative tactic to say that kids are going to kill themselves if we don't transition them. And it works on much of the population because obviously people don't want kids to kill themselves.
When we talk about a medical intervention, we're looking at the increase in happiness, the betterment it has.
You know, when you talk about that, like that MASH, it makes me that specific episode reminds me of in the army now when they try to be gay, and they're like, all right, kiss each other. It didn't happen.
Lives, right? If suicide is an outcome of something, we want to decrease that, right? Like you can't just
Obviously,
say, "Oh,
we want to decrease
suicide
suicide.
is coercive." Okay.
Wait a second.
Saying
So,
that kids will kill them.
basically, what she's saying is these kids want to commit suicide, so we need to help them transition to what they think they are, which, oh, by the way, is going to put them as the biggest needer is needer a word of big pharmaceutical companies for the rest of their life.
Themselves if we don't transition them is absolutely coercive, 100%.
But it's a real outcome.
Damn right.
It's not. There's no evidence for that.
Okay, let me look it up. Suicidality.
Let me look it up.
Well, in 5 seconds here, you're not going to be able to go through research studies. But you can always send me some later if you find some. I'm always happy to read them.
No shit. That's kind of cool. And the funny thing is, I think when I was in Fort Riley, I served in the same unit. The guy that played Forrest Gump as a kid, he was in my unit in Bravo Company. That dude said he joined the Army to get the experience for one being, a patriot, as well as for his future roles as military. Dude was cool as shit. Infantry. But yeah, man, that dude, we knew he was famous and he was super chill, relaxed. He was like one of us, which he really is. But
no, I'm really not worried because, as I've said,
that's good to know,
I've been
man.
doing this. Well, go ahead.
Okay.
But you're not going
And
to find something.
hell
in 20
yeah,
seconds
keep
here.
that shit. Because you can pass it off to your kids, and it's because it's going to be something that's in museums in the future. You know what I mean? Yes, you can chuckle at anything I say. It's allowed.
When it comes to research reports, you need to read the whole things. You need to look at the sample size. You need to look at where the data is coming.
Well, right, but the average parent should not have to read these things.
They
Like,
absolutely should.
No,
They should.
If a parent is going
A
to
doctor-
transition their child, they should be reading every
they be-
single ounce of
should they
research
be
in
reading
existence.
all of the research for cancer treatments, for any surgery their child has.
So puberty is not a medical condition. Cancer is a medical condition.
Gender dysphoria is a medical condition.
Gender dysphoria is absolutely.
But
And we
puberty
can
isn't.
assess that in children. There are things outlined in the DSM-5 that children can have that say this child has gender dysphoria, and we can say this treatment is the one that best remedies their
Okay.
symptoms and leads to
I'm going to
better
go back
quality
to
in life.
this. So she's spewing all this bullshit talking points, but at the same time, she's looking down and left. So she doesn't believe what she's fucking saying. She's just trying to remember the talking points that she has been told are real.
So I'll tell you.
Hell yeah, my unit's going to be in a museum.
Okay.
Leaving them alone.
You really think so?
So on my website, and I know you're gonna, well, maybe you won't, but a lot of people say I'm not going to your website. It's gonna be biased.
I've gone to your website before. We had this conversation like a couple of years ago. Or
Oh, okay. How about that?
You sure it was Chris?
So on my website, on the studies page, there's a link to 12 different academic studies that have been done into gender dysphoria before we gave kids puberty blockers. So they've been doing the puberty blocker thing for the last 15, 20 years. So these studies are a little older because now they're doing puberty blockers. But before they gave kids puberty blockers, 80 to 90% of the time, kids with gender dysphoria just grew out of it when they went through puberty. And when we talk about gender dysphoria, historically, it's different than what we're talking about today. Because historically, this affected mostly boys.
Her brain.
When they were really young.
She's listening. She's actually listening. That's fucking good to see.
4 or 5 years old. And today, we're talking about a totally different population, a totally different cohort. It's mostly adolescent girls who didn't experience this growing up, but they're getting to 10, 11, 12, 15 years of age, whatever. And now they're having this sudden onset of gender dysphoria.
So I think
but just hold on one sec.
Okay.
So all these studies historically, and on my website, there's a little spreadsheet. You can look at the data from all of them side by side. The majority of these kids grew up to be gay. And the vast majority saw their gender dysphoria desist. This was severe and prolonged gender dysphoria that started at a young age. The cure for gender dysphoria in almost all these cases was puberty itself.
You can see like the wheels were kind of spinning in her brain, but I'm not sure if the hamster was retarded or not. But I'll give her that. She tried. She really did. And I think she was kind of understanding the concept. But at the same time, she's like, this is not what I was told to believe. Is this real? And if she went to his website when they met a couple years ago, then she should have known that everything he's saying was true. Well, not really, but fact-based. What's up, Eloy? Fact-based evidence is on his website. And if she says, not the hamster, all right, we'll blame her. Maybe the connection from the wheel to her brain is like there's a break in it somewhere. But back to the transgender Billboard Chris, James Klug, and like I said, some gay guy. I don't remember his name, but that's what they're gonna say. He's gay. And it's more like kids cannot consent to puberty blockers. Now we're gonna see this lady, I'm gonna assume, because she looks like a lady and she doesn't look like a dude. And her fucking idiotic thought process on puberty blockers and transgenders.
Seeing things through your very privileged perspective that doesn't see how.
Because I'm a white man.
Huge shout out to Ruthless Americans for sponsoring this video. Children cannot consent to puberty blockers. You agree with this? Yes. Do you agree or disagree?
Yo, so this butch-looking bitch, bro, she's fucking based for a lesbian.
Little both.
Oh yeah, completely. You guys agree with it?
Yes.
Absolutely. What do you think?
You guys.
Uh-oh.
Why F us?
Because it is really. Don't videotape me. I did not consent to be videotaped.
It's a one-party consent state, and you're in public.
Zero interest?
Absolutely.
We're talking about sterilizing kids. That's kind of important, isn't it?
You probably shouldn't put people off and tell them to F off if you don't want to.
You're walking around with hate speech.
What is hate
What?
speech about this?
So here you go.
Because you're actively promoting.
She's mad at it because she considers it hate speech. So what did I tell you? Hate speech is now racism. It's a violation of what they consider the First Amendment.
Voting anti-trans agenda by walking around with that. Like, you know what you're doing.
Okay. Children cannot consent to puberty blockers. Children under the age of 18. You disagree with this sign?
I 100% disagree with the sign.
Right.
It is really critical to trust people at any age that they know what's going
Any
on.
age.
Yeah.
Mind if I ask you why?
I think some kids are too young to understand it.
Yeah.
There you go.
I also think that some kids that are a little bit more mature, 15, 16, 17-year-old, they do understand it, and I think they have a right
But at
to
that
choose.
point, they've already hit puberty.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I don't believe in ageism. So
Okay.
Yeah.
What about when it
Yo,
comes to
I heard
sex?
this yesterday. What the fuck is ageism? Hey Google, what is ageism?
According to Wikipedia, ageism is discrimination against individuals or groups on the basis of their age. The term was coined in 1969 by Robert Neal.
69, so it's new.
Believe in ageism?
Hey Google, shut up.
The children can consent to sex with adults?
Not with adults.
Why not?
Okay, we're talking about different things. So ageism, as in that adults have all of the accumulated knowledge that ever needs
We
to
do.
be have,
Right.
versus children.
Well, no.
That is what I'm talking about.
So she's talking about all the adults should have all the accumulated knowledge. So she considers herself an adult having all the knowledge. But what knowledge is she getting her, not knowledge, education from? I mean, I believe one way, and that's how I was taught. She believes another way, but she's a grifter. And well, I guarantee you my kids and her kids will be completely different. And they will probably be her kids will probably be making my kids, the cheeseburger at McDonald's. I'm just saying. Not that it's a bad thing, but her kids will be doing it at 27 years old.
Talking about like adults do not have all the accumulated knowledge. I don't agree with that. Like
Children cannot consent to puberty blockers.
Children, they have no state of mind yet.
There you go.
They get what what they get fed by guardians. And
Oh, he said it.
We're being society and social media, all that.
Y'all hear that? Talking about weak parents, society, and everything. He fucking said it. And because he's a black guy, we actually have to listen, which is a good thing because a lot of more. And you'll notice if we go to but if you go to the bigger cities and more like inner cities, black people don't like that shit. And I'm pretty sure if a transgender walked into the hood, they wouldn't be walking out. At least, yeah, they go get carried out.
They get fed by guardians and parents and whatnot. We're being society and social media, all that.
We're being booed by people for making this pretty basic claim. Why do you think people disagree with that?
Because most people are idiots.
No, I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's honorable, but some people choose that as a career, a profession. Flipping burgers is not a profession. It's something that gets high school kids a job and college kids something to do when they need that money for all that booze. Oh, man.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous because they say that we're the radical ones and they're trying to mutilate children.
Her stance was that 15, 16, 17-year-olds, they know what they want, younger doesn't. Why do you say so? Why the difference there?
I think that they should have a little bit more time to comprehend the things in life and how they really truly feel.
Yeah.
Chris, what do you think about that?
Well, so there's a friend of mine. Her name's Chloe Cole.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
She's been speaking out about this all across the country. She has autism, like almost half of these kids do, statistically speaking. And at 13, she was put on puberty blockers and testosterone. At 15, she was given a double mastectomy. I think it was just 11 months later, she had deep regrets. She'd suffered other abuse as well, as many of these kids have. And now, she doesn't have her breasts. She's not sure if she can have kids because of the effects of testosterone. Some 16-year-olds are much more mature than others, but they're still children. Their brains, the prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain responsible for logical decision-making, doesn't finish fully forming until 25. I know when I was 16, I may not look like the smartest person on the street, but I did okay in school. But man, the stuff I did when I was 16 and still at 20, like most people, I did a lot of dumb things.
I'm 47.
I was gonna say, yeah, there's not gonna be a millionaire flipping the burgers. That's what he pays people $7.50 or the $8.25 an hour to do now. But like I said, it's not one of those, and it would never happen. Now, like a small business restaurant owner, yeah, that's fucking cool because that's a profession they choose. That's not necessarily a fast food joint. You know what I mean? A lot of these mom and pop restaurants are fucking amazing. And actually, people sometimes. What's up, Laura?
7, I still do dumb things.
Yeah, now we expect kids who've struggled with who knows what trauma or abuse or
Nothing makes
they
it
have other
less.
mental health comorbidities.
It's just the way I look at it. Fuck. Some people choose a profession, but people complain that, fast food doesn't make money as an employee. So if that's true, why would you want to continue that after college? I mean, it doesn't make them any less of a person, but my thing is, in America, don't people want, how do I say this? They want to prosper. They want the American dream. Working at McDonald's may get you there, but that's because they give out scholarships. How many of these people that get the McDonald's scholarships actually go on to work for the McDonald's corporation? I'm not saying it's for dumb people, because it's not. I'm not college educated, and I tell people that all the time. I went to college for 5 days and quit. I was 37, but it still counts.
We expect these kids to be able to make lifelong, permanent decisions to their fertility, to their future sex life, and they're irreversibly harming their
Well,
body.
see, you messed up. You were saying you were going to cook me ravioli. Ravioli is one of those things I ate as a kid, and I threw up, and now it's, what happens as a kid. You're like, fuck, if that happened, I'm not doing it again. See what I mean? This guy gets it.
So, I don't know. I still think 15 or 16 or 17 is very young.
I think that it shouldn't be just something that you should just on a whim do something. I think there should be, just like any other mental health aspect, you should talk to somebody. You should understand all the aspects of it.
Yeah. In order to be
not saying-
diagnosed with PTSD, I had to go through so many fucking tests when it was quite obvious that, by my personality, my actions, my everything, everybody knew I had it. And I was kind of in denial until I got forced to go. And it's funny because it was in 2010. I was told we were doing the pre-physical for the deployment, and I was told I could not go because of my mental health. I'm like, y'all need to get that shit fixed. It took me 90 days to get the approval to deploy on meds, but I did it, and I still did my job amazingly.
And just go run to the doctors because you're 16 years old and go, oh, look, this is what I want to do today.
We trust children to know what's best for them in your first argument. But now when it comes to sex, children don't have the accumulated knowledge. You acknowledge that.
Or tattoos.
You're saying children can change sex, but they can't have sex. Why
You
is that
are
different
doing
standard?
the hate group thing where you're mishmashing predatory things with kids understanding their own genders and their own identities. Predatory sexual behavior is not the same thing as people being trans. They are different things. You cannot put them in the same group.
I'd say indoctrinating.
But they lead to
children
one,
believe that
leads
they're
to the
born in
other.
wrong body and that they need to change their body to find true happiness. I'd say that's a pretty predatory.
No one is being indoctrinated.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Don't you think it's predatory, though, to, for example, give a double mastectomy to a 12, 13-year-old girl?
I don't think it's predatory
You think
because
that's okay?
people have to go through a lot of counseling in order to get to that point.
Not so much anymore.
I disagree with you. I know a lot of trans kids.
How old are they?
That's none of your business.
Well, you brought it up.
Yeah,
All
why
right,
do you
guys,
know a
let's
bunch
take
of trans
few moments
kids?
to welcome a new sponsor, the people that made this video possible, Ruth. At checkout, again, that's ruthlessamericans.com. Offer code KLUG15 for 15% off at checkout. Let's get back on the video.
It's interesting to talk about the process. Chris, could you maybe weigh in a little bit about the process
Yeah,
there?
there should be a process, and almost everyone thinks there is one because there used to be.
I don't think there is right now.
The practice today is to even suggest therapy for these kids.
I don't know if, well, Laura's really not that young. Well, she is young. I think she's still in her 30s. But, and Canadian. I don't know if she understands the bring home the bacon thing. Do you, Laura?
According to the activists, the hardcore activists that push this, to even suggest that therapy or time is needed is to invalidate the person's gender identity.
Not honestly, I think everybody should go to therapy. But
Yeah, especially before we do stuff like this.
Yeah.
Last year in Milwaukee, they had a pride event, and a psychologist set up a tent there with a sandwich board outside saying trans or non-binary,
Okay.
3 letters of recommendation for surgery. All you had to do was walk up to this psychologist, and they'll just rubber stamp your letter that you need to go get surgery. I know other kids
who've called in over the phone to telehealth in order to get the recommendations that we need. We've got Jamie Reed, who is married to a trans man. She calls herself a queer woman. She worked at the Washington University Transgender Clinic in St. Louis for 4 years as case manager. She quit in November. She says the kids that come in to their gender clinic there, they send them to a therapist that they know will simply rubber stamp the letter that's needed for surgery. And if a child happens to come in from some outside therapist who doesn't think this is the right course of action, they'll send them to an in-house psychologist or psychiatrist who they know will then rubber stamp it. There are no safeguards anymore for these kids. And to even suggest that these children need therapy is to invalidate their gender identity. And so the trend is no therapy at all. It's like what you said in your first argument. Children know what's best for them, and they don't dare to question anything anymore. They start them on puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and refer them for surgeries right away. What do you think of that?
I think you have not even close to completely full information. Like maybe that is a sliver of what is going on, but the great majority of trans kids do have tons of
so we're all similar
with the
age.
adults in their lives.
Except for maybe you
Rarely
are.
is something done immediately. I know a lot of trans kids and or on the non-binary spectrum, and very, very, very rarely do you do something when you're under 18 that is not easily reversible, like puberty blockers, which are easily reversible.
Yeah.
Because you can
How?
stop taking them and then puberty happens again.
But they still did damage.
Some of them do. Yeah.
The statistics on this are 98% of children who start on puberty blockers progress to cross-sex hormones, because you're not just signing them up for puberty blockers. These kids are committed to this whole pathway. They're told that first they need to stop their bodies from developing because it would be too traumatic for them to appear like their actual sex. It would be traumatic for a young girl to develop into a woman. Well, you can stop talking to us if you want.
You want to stop talking to
Are
us?
you videotaping me?
You were the one that flipped us off. You were the one that flipped us off. That's why we came over
You're
here.
walking around with like a hate speech billboard.
Right, but pretty reasonable that we came over here to talk to you after you flipped us off, correct? So if you didn't want the attention, you should have given it to us.
Multiple times not to video record me. Like, people go after people online and destroy their lives.
You're in public. We're having very respectful conversations. We don't need to talk to you. You don't need to talk to us. Is that cool?
But I asked multiple times to not
talking
video
to me.
record me.
The Attorney General of Missouri, for example, laid out this process. I think it was over a period of 2 years. There should be.
I'm kind of glad that they did this because you can see two different aspects: a typical SJ dub, and then I'm honestly surprised that her answers came out the way they did, because she definitely looked like a butch. So I'm pretty sure that she's not an SJ dub. She's kind of one that's like, I just want to be me. Get the fuck out of here.
First to discuss these various things, and that was even for adults. But for kids, yeah, there should be a long process, because who knows what's going on with these kids? It could be anything.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
And I mean,
So we agree on that point for sure.
And do you mind if I ask you really quick? I mean, we started off with this conversation saying 15, 16, 17. After hearing what he's talking about right there, change your mind a little bit there, maybe?
No.
Like I just said, you don't need to talk to us. You continue talking to us, so we're staying here. Do you understand?
I think it is really awful that
And it's good
there's
that we talk
a
about it.
sliver of a group of people that are. Do you know how many
Trying to stop kids from
trans
being
kids commit suicide
sterilized?
because they can't figure
Uh-oh.
themselves out?
Get him, Chris.
It's not
Two
true.
lies just always say. They only ever have two things to say, and they're both false. The first one is that puberty blockers are reversible. Well, how's time reversible? If a kid goes on puberty blockers from 12 to 17, is there some time machine where they get to go back to being 12 again? Of course not. And the other lie, and it's really despicable and coercive and manipulative of you to say so, is that kids are going to kill themselves if we don't let them transition. Guess what? Humans have been on this planet for about 200,000 years. They've been going through puberty just fine.
Longer
Kids
than
were
that.
killing themselves because they were growing up. Puberty is not a medical condition.
You are only seeing things through your very privileged perspective. That doesn't
Privilege.
see
Because I'm
how
a white male, is that what makes me privileged?
you do have historical and current privilege.
I think
Still
that
no?
there
Oh
should
my
be-
god.
There should be an avenue for kids to.
Hey, all you white males in the chat, you have historical and what you say current privileges. Okay. Y'all must be the man. Wait. Oh, wait. That's different.
Historical and current privilege.
I think
Still
that
no?
there should be an avenue for kids to explore the things that are in their minds, and if they go, I think, like I said, that there should be some kind of a mental health track for them to go through. And if they really do go through this and this is really something that they want to do, then they should be able to do it.
What's the harm in waiting until 18, for example?
That's I mean, I've seen some 18-year-olds that act like 6-year-olds. I've seen some, you know, 15 and 16-year-olds that act like 40-year-olds that have a better head on their shoulders than some of these people that, you know, are on the street every day.
Waste of sperm.
Waste of sperm.
So
That's the fucking kind of guy. That's the problem. This guy right here, he's at SJW. How are they the fucking problem when they're trying to make sure kids aren't abused?
Waste of sperm.
Well, your privilege is because you work 88 hours a day. You make your money. You're not on government assistance. Not that that's a bad thing.
Their head on their shoulders and some of these.
But with government assistance is also, are they actively trying to find a job? You know what I mean? Yeah, white privilege is one of those words now where if you don't, they don't agree with what you're saying, you have privilege. And Asians get treated as white people because we're the model minority. Don't really know what that means because I don't think I'm the model minority because I'm the opposite of what the left wants me to be. I don't believe in the left. I don't believe in liberalism. I mean, I do have liberal values, but I don't impose those on people like these clowns.
People that, you know, are on the street every day.
Waste of sperm.
Absolutely true. And it's funny that you say that, Bullhen. Anyone that doesn't want a job, I can get a job, another one, but I don't want to. Well, why would I want to do that?
So here's why I agree with this. I'm a mother of 4, and I think children.
Yes,
there's a lot
Eloy.
of things they can't consent to that we
That's
all
true.
agree on. They can't.
If you have an opinion or belief, I'm privileged because my beliefs and my opinions and ideology doesn't match up with a good majority. Not good majority. I would say, what's the approval rating for Joe Biden? 37%. Yeah, that's the people that don't agree with me.
consent to getting married. They can't consent to signing up for the military. They can't consent to getting a tattoo. You know, these are all, and we all kind of agree that these are things that children are not equipped emotionally or mentally to understand long-term consequences. So we don't allow them to do that. So to me, a puberty blocker is something that will create long-term changes and issues for the child that they might one day regret. And we protect our kids from making all kinds of decisions in other areas, but this one, where a lot of people want to give them the green light, and it doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, you think about it. We're responsible for our kids' health care, you know, until they're 18, right? You're not considered an adult till you're 18. So why should they be allowed to have all these puberty blockers, gender changes? I don't know.
I have 4 kids, 18, 22, 24, and 27.
Oh, so they probably just missed out on all the indoctrination now. Oh, lucky.
Yeah. But
no, because this is probably something they would encounter if they were a little bit younger.
For sure. And then, honestly, I've told my husband, if my kids were young now, I'd be homeschooling them because I just think the nonsense that's going on in public schools, I wouldn't
Yes. It's actually, they're not moving forward with articles of impeachment. It's a impeachment inquiry. That's why they haven't voted yet. Because they can't actually move forward with impeachment until the House votes on it. Even if it passes the House, it's still got to go to the Senate, and we already know it's not going to pass the Senate. Beavis and Butthead. What? Oh, in the new movie. Okay. Yeah, I did see that.
sleep well at night, knowing that's what they're getting during the day. And that's a shame.
I think when I was like 16, 17, I just wanted to be David Bowie. So I think if I were that age now, I'd be put on all this.
Right.
I don't know. When I was 16 or 17, I had hormones. So I was trying to do other things. But they didn't teach that in school. That was just hormones.
Commend you guys for what you're doing. It's hard to come out publicly and stand up for something that might not be popular in the crowd you're in. And so I think you're doing a nice job.
It's okay, you guys will touch your girl. It'll happen, guys. I'm gay. That's very homophobic of you.
Hey man,
I'm gay. Why do I want a female to love me?
No need for the homophobia, sir.
I know, that's fucking crazy.
I'm not saying that you are actively going forth and working to oppress people, although you are. I am
By saying
saying
we shouldn't sterilize and mutilate kids, I'm oppressing them.
you're not.
How is it not
sterilizing
sterilizing them?
I mean,
Well, just
people
prove them
have-
wrong. Why don't you just educate them?
If you think
Yeah.
that people are just there to like put forward and be baby making factories, then maybe in your head that's what it is. But people are so much more than that, and most trans adults wish that they could have changed puberty at when they were initially going into puberty.
Why? Bullshit.
Because then there's always going to be traits in adulthood that are going to be corresponded to a different gender.
Like what?
Yeah.
Things that the world looks at and says
So
maybe
aesthetics.
is more.
So I don't think that it's right to sterilize a child, cut apart children over aesthetics, over looks.
I
You
mean,
know that that's not right.
And let's talk about this.
I don't think that we are like destroying children because they remove or change a particular aspect. That is not what I think is destroying. I think
fuck are you
what
talking
you are
about?
doing is destroying like the soul of people and making people at so much more risk of
All right,
being
bitch.
persecuted and denied rights and
If
denied
I
to
was
be allowed to like
one of these
exist in
three
the
guys,
world.
oh, wrong one. Obviously, I wouldn't be this guy because I'm not homosexual. But when she would say this shit, I would like ask these people, like, "Hey, do you think this is good or bad?" And if they all say that's a good sign, then she's dumb, and her majority of people believe this.
Little girls, you think, have a right to double mastectomies. At what age?
Well, one, I disagree with your gendering, and two, I think that is
Have a right to double mastectomy.
world.
So
being persecuted and denied rights and denied to be allowed to like exist in the
So,
world.
So little girls, you think, have a right to double mastectomies. At what age?
Well, one, I disagree with your gendering, and two, I think that is up to the adults
Wait,
in
why
their
do you
lives.
disagree with the gendering? What do you mean?
Yeah, for
Because
mastectomies.
you just said little girls, and if
Oh
somebody is
my
out-
God.
They are.
I think you are misgendering people that are coming out as trans and moving forward. Like, and
Oh, you mean
also
those girls are actually little boys.
Yeah.
I don't know what their identity is, and neither do you.
This condition's called gender dysphoria.
Mhm.
This intense loathing, basically. Historically, according to all the academic studies, before we gave kids puberty blockers, more than 80% of them grew out of it when they went through puberty, and a majority actually grew up to be gay. So, one demographic that's really being harmed by this are kids who grow up to be gay. Effeminate little boys, it's not a big surprise. Yes, some of them grow up to be gay, but now they're being told that just because they're effeminate, because they don't conform to these regressive stereotypes, that maybe they were born in the wrong body. I think ideologically, this whole thing is based on a lie, and we have this explosion of kids today
I
who are
don't.
believing in this.
I don't agree with they were born in the wrong body. My
Yeah.
brother's 3 years older than I am. He grew up putting on my mom's
Based.
shoes, and he's the straightest man you ever met.
It's a good thing he's not a kid today. They would have sent him
Like,
for some of this.
This is true, probably, but I mean, if parents are open to allowing their kids to explore what's makes them happy, little kids, if a little boy wants to play with a Barbie doll, knock yourself out. If a little girl wants to play with a honky truck, knock yourself out. You want to go play football in the dirt? Go do you.
Oh, hell yeah.
I mean,
what I say all
It seems very reasonable right there. That seems very reasonable. What seems not as reasonable is you want to go make life-altering decisions under the age of 18, knock yourself out. Let's get a couple therapy sessions and stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
You agree.
That there should be some kind of a therapy session to validate
yeah.
some of the things that they're feeling and make sure.
Not
we
really
have that.
validate,
So that seems to be really where she's focused on more therapy, but under the age of 18, still more therapy. What do you think, Chris?
Oh, for me, it's an absolute no kids. I think even for young adults, we should still be doing therapy on young adults. Tons of these people who are detransitioning today started as adults because who knows what's going on in their life, and now they have deep regrets.
I also
That's
think
actually
that
a
some
good way to
people do
think of
as a
it.
fad,
I've never
as-
thought
as,
about
oh,
that way.
look, this is what I want to do today. I don't think that's okay.
Transgender, they're calling it.
There you go.
So when we know that more than 80% of these kids with gender dysphoria will simply grow out of it, and a lot of them grow up to be gay, what the heck are we doing stopping their physical development and sterilizing these kids who are just going to be happy, healthy gay men and women?
What do you think about that?
One.
Well, I'm a demigod, so I mean that kind of works, right? It doesn't fall into those two categories.
There are so many more statistics and studies, and a ton of experts believe that you should support trans folks in their journeys. You are thinking through one very tiny sliver. And also, I do not believe that sexuality and gender are the same thing, and you are conflating them, which I disagree with. And also, like, I think I know people
really quick. How did he conflate them?
Who do detransition and they feel fine about it.
They feel fine about it.
They feel
No, they don't.
So after a 13-year-old had her breasts removed before they even developed, just removed, she'll be fine with that the rest of her life.
I can't speak to each individual person, and
But you just fucking said she'd be fine with it, or they.
Gender more.
I wouldn't be.
You don't know what they're going to feel because you.
I think
probably,
I do.
No, you don't.
I
Because
kinda do.
you probably identify
I love
with
how
the
they're
gender
trolling
you
her.
were assigned at birth, so you don't know what they feel.
There's no such thing as gender assigned at birth, and there's no such thing as a transgender child. They're called boys
Well,
and
we
girls.
have huge disagreements, and I grew up in the South. I have people that I love that have huge disagreements with me.
I grew up in
but
the
they do
South.
not go around actively putting forth hate speech in the world. You know what you're doing.
Well, what's
You're
hateful about
going
it?
out there to try and talk actively against people being trans when you should just say
He's
it's
not.
okay for people to explore themselves.
You're ignoring the basis for the
It has
conversation.
nothing to do with
That's
people being
children.
trans.
Done now.
They're removing so many barriers, and what I really object to is these things being pushed and being called LGBT rights when it goes against gay people time and time again.
Look, I don't. So my other half at this point is a woman. I love her to death. She identifies as straight, and it is. I mean, it is what it is. I don't put a label on things. I can't stand when people peg me into this is what you are, this is what you do.
Right.
I grew up dating guys, girls. It didn't matter to me as long as I fell in love with a person. So, you want to grow your hair long, knock yourself out. You want to put it in pigtails like Pippi Longstocking? Do you? I don't care. I shouldn't judge you for that because there's way more things I could be judged for than that. So.
Yeah, sexuality exists. It's
I think I found a libertarian.
Gender identity is an ideology with no real basis to it at all. I think we should abolish it completely because there's no right way to be a boy or a girl, and that's what this is teaching them.
Exactly.
So it's just nonsense.
Well, we've mentioned the gingerbread man before, and it breaks down all these things and says you might be this. And it's like, no, you might just be a different kind of girl. Maybe you're a gay girl, but you might just maybe a little bit more of a tomboy. They're describing personality traits and saying that it's some
funny
ideal or
my
gender.
daughter-
It's some.
She was a tomboy growing up. Now she is one of the most girly girls. Oh my god! When she hit puberty, well, not really puberty. It was a couple of years later. Like buying her all these dresses and shit. Now I'm like, oh fuck, this shit gets expensive. I got to get her a dress for homecoming, which we got last weekend. I got to get her a fucking prom dress. I got to get her cap and gown. Jesus fuck! Not the cap and gown that doesn't really do anything.
Gender, and that's
More
just
the
not case.
dresses.
You're absolutely correct.
It is on your head if I get doxxed by
You'll
by
be
horrific
fine.
people. That's
The
not
only
what
violence
happens.
that ever gets
No one knows your name, cunt.
with respect to this subject comes from the trans activists towards people like us. You don't need
That
to
is
worry
not true.
Really?
Like people
Yeah,
that are
videos to show
oppressed
I've had
are
my arm
going
broken, I've been
through
assaulted
so
probably
much
40
horrific
times.
things. Well, look,
I haven't seen one video of
So
trans
he
activists
deserved
ever
it.
getting attacked.
It's what he was wearing.
I've never seen video of trans
that
activists.
is a ridiculous thing to conflate to
Well, you
what
just said
to what
because-
femme people
What
go
are
through.
femme people?
Feminine people, women,
He
people
looks
that
pretty
go
feminine.
throughout the world, and the patriarchy oppresses them. That is a ridiculous thing that you just conflated.
Patriarchy, white supremacy.
Best of luck with the ideology.
Every
Thank you.
possible social justice warrior activist talking point.
The white
Damn right,
You went
Chris.
down the list and just called us everything. Hey, thank you so much for talking with us today. Really appreciate you. Were super respectful and really a great conversation. Hopefully you enjoyed it as much as we did.
I did. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, man.
What was your name?
Tony.
Tony.
You disagree with the sign?
I'm not we're not going to be participating.
No? Boo? Flip us off? We can't talk to you though?
Yep.
Why do you agree with this, would you say?
Well, I think it's ruining our country, and I'm for it. We need more people like yourself and more awareness because We got to get this country back to what our founders wanted.
We've gone so far from the ideals which formed this country. And we need to speak up because there's a new war going on. It's not a war being fought in the trenches. It's a war being fought in schools and on social media that's harming our kids. And it's every bit as important as any other war we fought because they're coming for our kids.
I agree. We're from Florida, so we're passing laws.
Every most sensible person who comes along is always from Florida.
Well, we love Philadelphia too. It's a beautiful city.
It's a beautiful city, and
get back on track.
There's a lot of people that actually do agree with this sign in Philly. We've already spoke with a handful of them. Some people are on the fence. Some people don't understand it, and some people are obviously wildly against it. When did you guys start to hear about this happening? Chris asked this question earlier. When did you start to hear about this happening just in general?
Well, we were made aware of it in Florida because our governor was really against
that
it.
TikTok,
and on
like you
top of
did
it,
say
passed
earlier.
Laws, and we had a proactive governor.
Where are you located? Are you from around here or no?
I'm French. I'm
French.
In France, the ideology has been also rising over the last years. So no, it's starting in France as well. I was prime minister.
So basically what he said, which is kind of interesting, because they say it in the UK too. All this ideology, transgender, DEI, LGBT, not the LGBT, but all the extra additions, started here. And Europe is blaming us because we let it happen. And now it's happening there. New World Order.
Minister of Education is called Pape Ndiaye, and he studied it at the University of Virginia, where he became woke, completely brainwashed, and he's now our education minister. So that's pretty bad.
Well,
I think it's something we should fight all the way along the world. I mean, especially in the Western world, yes.
All right, everyone, that is it for today. So we ended up traveling
That's
around
not
town,
it.
talking to people about how children cannot consent
There's
to
a
puberty
bonus thing.
blockers. First, Mike, how do you think the conversations went today?
It was amazing. We're the majority. Most people agree
Look at
with
that
us,
building.
and we're just going to keep proving that.
Look at that fucking building. I want to go explore the hell out of that. Especially the basements. That's old. Sorry.
Very cool. And where can people find you if they want to follow you on social media?
You can find me on YouTube at Mike Harlow or Twitter at not Mike Harlow.
Very cool. Chris, how do you think the conversations went today?
Oh,
Phenomenal
man.
as always.
Timu is fucking a ridiculously addictive fucking. I don't know how much money I spend. My wife buys shit on Timu.
It's one conversation at a time. We are going to stop this child abuse, my man.
Absolutely. And where can people find you on social media and supporting your work?
Twitter and Instagram at BillboardChris, and they can contribute to my cause through my website, billboardchris.com.
You guys, if you enjoyed watching these conversations today, please make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe for more videos and hit that bell notification button so you're notified next time I post. We'll catch you guys in the next videos.
Not it. Not over.
I'm a school social worker, so I work with students K to 5. So it's
So-
more so just education.
School social worker, K through 5, which is basically what we're the whole gender ideology they're trying to prevent during those specific years. Obviously, middle school as well, but this is when they're most impressionable.
Educating. So if there's anything you would like to share,
Yeah.
because I do have students that sometimes will have identity things going on, and obviously my job is to support them from a school standpoint.
And really quick, before you get started, I just want to clarify. You want him to kind of start with his point before you kind of give
Well, I
your
don't
perspective
really-
on this? Is
I
that
don't
correct?
really, I don't
Have an opinion?
want to say that I have an opinion yet.
Okay,
I'm
that's totally
educating
fine.
Told you.
myself so that I
I can do my quick spiel.
You're talking to the
Sure.
best guy that travels the world talking about this topic, so go for it. Chris, take it away.
Sure. So, yeah, since September 2020, I've been traveling North America. I went to the UK on one trip recently as well, just having conversations out on the street. So, here's the deal. We got all these kids today with this condition that we call gender dysphoria, which is essentially it's just self-loathing. These kids have they have some other mental health comorbidity going on. There might have been abuse or trauma. There might have been sexual abuse, some other mental health problems. There's cutting, there's eating disorders, whatever. For some reason, these kids aren't comfortable.
Okay.
A lot of these kids historically have grown up to be gay. So a lot of gay men, if you ask them when they were younger, maybe they were more feminine. Maybe they played with the girls more. That's fine. My position is there's no right way to be a boy or a girl. You're beautiful just as you are. No drugs or scalpels needed. But there's this ideology being taught in schools. It's all over social media. It's coming out of academia, and it's teaching these kids that they have a gender identity, which might be different than their sex. So what is a gender identity? No one can ever really tell me. But when you look at some of the resources that the activists produce, like the most popular one, it's called this genderbread person. You might have seen her. It's a gingerbread man.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
And I know there's a lot
Very-
of vocab that's changing.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's all activist vocab, honestly. But the genderbread person defines your gender identity as being based on your personality, your job, hobbies, likes, dislikes, roles in society, and expectations of one. So what does your job have to do with your gender?
Yeah.
Nothing. What do your hobbies or your likes have to do with your gender?
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. We've got the Boston Children's Hospital, which is now the second ranked pediatric hospital in the country. It was number one. But they have one of the most prestigious gender clinics in America. And the director of that gender clinic, they produced all these videos. And the director, her name's Jeremy Carswell. She says that things like a little girl trying to pee standing up, a boy who doesn't want to get a haircut, playing with the opposite gender toys,
Wait.
and maybe trying on a sibling's clothing.
So I don't want to get a haircut. I mean, I haven't gotten a haircut for almost 4 years. So what's that make me?
These are all signs that your child is transgender and can be treated. No matter which way you slice it, all of this ideology comes down to is sexist, aggressive stereotypes. And instead of telling our children
Oh,
they're
shit.
beautiful just as they are, these children are being taught that they might have been born in the wrong body. What an abusive thing to tell a child. Can you imagine someone telling you that you were born wrong?
Actually-
that you should have been a boy?
If it was in Lithuania, that's old Tartaria. So that building that you're talking about might be more interesting than you think in the basements. Basements. You want to go typically 30 feet down. And they have them.
Nonsense. Just because
20
you're
to 30
a tomboy, maybe? More than half the women growing up today are tomboys. And the kids that end up in these gender clinics, and we know this from their own statistics, like in England, there's this gender clinic where all the kids went to. It's called the Tavistock. They have a wait list of 8,000 children right now. But 35% of the children there have moderate to severe autism. And if you include the mild cases, it goes about 50%. Tons of these kids historically grew up to be gay. The majority of kids with gender dysphoria grew up to be gay. But we also know that when you just left kids alone and let them grow up, that almost all of them grew out of it and it went away. And so people like my buddy Mike here grew up to be the beautiful gay man that he is.
So beautiful.
He is very good.
But if he was growing up today, he might be led to believe that he has a gendered soul, like he's really a girl inside, and that he won't find true happiness unless he goes on puberty blockers, estrogen, and gets surgery.
So you're not denying that trans people exist. It's more so just
My position
children
is that,
starting from before 18, before they're able to make their own.
yeah, now if an adult wants to call themselves trans, I mean, it's really just a label. Transition is something you do, it's not something you are. But no, trans kids, no. They're called girls and boys. And they're going through a natural stage of identity formation. We should leave them alone, especially when there's so much indoctrination going on. It's not all education in the schools anymore, it's indoctrination. And we just need to leave the kids alone, let them grow up, let them figure themselves out, give them the body positive message that they're beautiful just as they are. Because changing the body of a child, stopping their physical development with experimental drugs that have never been approved for this purpose, in my opinion, that's child.
And I'm always like scrolling on TikTok and just looking at different things.
shit.
And I have seen a lot of people detransitioning. Like, so they're older and they realize that they want to detransition back into their original sex that they identified. So it's just very interesting.
And maybe we could touch on some of the negatives in that aspect of what the process is to detrans. I know we know
I
a
know a lot
handful
of
of transgender individuals that are detransitioning.
One that's very well known in the country right now, she's been testifying at legislatures all across the states. Chloe Cole.
Yeah, Chloe, I think, actually testified in front of Congress. And I believe some of the leftists were treating her like she was a piece of shit.
This girl, she had autism, she had some abuse, some trauma. At 13, they put her on puberty blockers, testosterone. And at 15, she had a double mastectomy.
15.
Yeah. And now, because she was on testosterone for a few years, she doesn't know if she can have kids. She's still having problems related to the double mastectomy.
Yeah.
18 now. She's suing another girl, Layla Jane, same lawyer, Harmeet Dillon, the lawyer. She had her breast cut off when she was 13. They put her on puberty blockers, testosterone at the age of 12. These are babies.
Yeah.
I have an
No,
11
it's
and
very
13-year-old
valid.
girl. Like, it's nuts. Yeah. What are we doing to these kids just because they're having a hard time in life? We're now telling them they were born wrong? It's so abusive. This used to affect a handful of kids. Now we've got 300,000 children between the age of 12 and 17 reported by the New York Times that have been diagnosed with gender dysphoria. That's just the
Holy
actual diagnosis
shit.
for insurance purposes. It doesn't include the other cases we don't even know about. So this has exploded. And it's this really negative message
Yeah.
that children are born wrong. That's just ideological nonsense.
Very valid. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you, any feedback about what he had to say, or I know you
Yeah.
just wanted to kind of hear what he had to say,
Yeah.
but any feedback or any
I
response
think
you
what
think?
you're saying is very valid. I mean, kids
But-
are going to go through, or just people in general, just going to go through different stages in their life. I don't want to invalidate that if someone feels like they were born, that's not the case, but maybe waiting until they're a little bit older. And then I also heard on the flip side is that if a boy wants, no,
Come on.
just the physical changes in puberty, that's why the puberty blockers, because that can cause depression or that can cause suicide ideations and things like that, because their body is changing in a way that they don't want it to change. So
Puberty's a tough time, right?
Yeah.
I get public speeches and stuff now, and I normally ask the women.
So, I wish I was taller. Does that make me? Does that make me not in the wrong right body? Can I be? Does that consider me transgender, or height? Trans height? Trans height?
In the room, I did this last night at a talk I gave. How many women here love going through puberty? Guess what? Not one hand's gone up in the air yet. And I've asked this of thousands of people. So it's a tough time, especially for girls, because they're getting sexualized. Their innocence kind of disappears a lot more for girls than it does for boys.
Yeah.
We just got bigger and stronger. The girls are now getting bad looks from men and intent from men. They don't like that. Their bodies are changing.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
But leave them alone. They're going to grow into their bodies. They're going to become comfortable with themselves. Yeah. And what's the greatest joy for most adults?
What's up, Nunya?
Having a family. It's becoming a parent. And that's being taken away from these kids because these drugs and hormones combined are sterilizing the children.
Yeah.
And how can they possibly consent to any of this? They're just kids.
Yeah. I'm very curious where this is going to head in the future. So.
It will, for children,
100% right
this
there,
will be
Zero.
banned, 100%, because there's no good argument for it. There's absolutely no good argument for it. I mean, some of these kids still believe in Santa Claus, and they're like, "Hey, let's go down the path of sterilizing myself."
Yeah.
They're mature enough to go through that, even if they have the counseling, even
Bruh. Really? Fucking love that song. Skilo, wasn't it?
if they have the conversations, they can change their mind. They're children.
Oh, sorry. Keep pausing. Good. Good. How are you? Whenever you start your Zoom, I'll be there.
But that's top word right here. This is the big focus. Children cannot consent. We're not talking about what adults want to do within their own lives.
Santa's always talking
Any
about
of that.
hoes.
We're talking about children. We're trying to protect children here. So
And I can respect that.
fair enough. Seems pretty reasonable take, huh? Reasonable take.
Absolutely.
That's a beautiful conversation. Thank you.
Absolutely. No problem. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been about 2 hours. I didn't realize it was going to be that long. But at the same time, I really do. Because some of the stuff I watch, a lot of people won't see. Or it doesn't pop up because it's not drama for the drama panels. No offense. But that's probably why I get the lower views. But regardless, I have an opinion, and it's a very strong opinion. If you don't like it, I really don't give a fuck. Because that's just me. But the whole purpose of this is I'm not telling y'all how to think. Because everyone has free will. But I am telling you to think and form your own opinions based off of what you see. And then you can either do that, or you can take what I taught, what I presented, and do your own research. Like Billboard Chris, like you said, go to his page. He has plenty of stuff. And if you go back to the very beginning of this video, I did plug Casey Mo. So if you haven't followed him, go ahead and follow him. His name is, it's just how it's spelled, Casey Mo. Search him up in tab, give him a like, give him a subscription. Wait, like and subscribe. As well as all of Nunya's channels, because we all know them anyway. Yeah, pop up the link for me, please. It's in the description on YouTube, not on Rumble. But let me check one more thing. Oh, y'all are here. Oh, they do have it. All right. So somebody asked me for cadences. I don't know about you, the specific person they brought, but this is one of the cadences I love and I used quite a bit. Let's see. Share screen. Y'all ready for this? This was legit my favorite cadence to call. And I got yelled at outside of my battalion by the chaplain because of this cadence. So, fuck him and welcome.
Left, right, left, right, kill. Left, right, oh, what a thrill. I went to the playground where all the kiddies play. I dislinged some claymores and blew 'em all away. 'Cause it's left, right,
left, right, kill.
Left, right, no better thrill.
It's,
I
you know,
went
I
to the
will.
mall where all the ladies shop. I pulled out my machete and I began to shop. 'Cause it's left, right, kill. Left, right, you know I will. I went to the church where all the people pray. I shouldered my soul and I began to spray. 'Cause it's left, right, kill. Left, right, oh, what a thrill. I went to the school where all the kiddies learn. I pulled out my flamethrower and I watched them all burn, singing left, right, kill. Left, right, you know I will.
There you go. As you can see why that is no longer a good modern day cadence. But I don't fucking care. I would call it anyway up until the day I retired. So, with that being said, I don't know why it's like that. I hope y'all enjoy the show. And I know I do. But all good things must come to an end. And I'll see you next time. Thank you for coming. Hit the like on your way out, which most of you already did. And I'll see y'all next time. Follow Casey Mo.